All right, welcome everybody to Seven Figure CEO Podcast. Today we have special guest, Mr. Omar Kadi, BJJ black belt and owner of Glory Martial Arts Center in Brooklyn, New York. Omar, thanks so much for being on the show with me today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I think this is a really special episode that we have because you just opened your academy in January of 2021. Which, I've got to ask, what were you thinking opening up an academy in the middle of the pandemic, and especially in New York, which, got hit kind of harder than a lot of the other states that are out there? What was your mindset going into opening the academy at the beginning of this year?
So we were like, obviously Marcelo Garcia's was shut down and we had nowhere to train, nowhere to really go. And we were just, me and my partner, Ali, who's not on the podcast with me, but he's here with me in spirit. He's an amazing partner. And we were just we're looking at each other like, man, what can we do? We were training for a little bit in my basement. We'd set up mats and train there. And then we just kind of got bored of training with each other. And we're like, you know what, let's go to the park and do some high intensity workouts. And then we just went to a park in the neighborhood in Brooklyn where we grew up. And people started coming over. Hey, I trained jiu-jitsu at this place. Can I roll with you guys? Oh man, I've seen you here. Or I've seen you at this competition. And it was just one after the other. And I just looked down and I was like, man, I think people are sick of this lockdown and people want to just get back to normal and get back to real life, And I looked at him, I was like, let's just open up something, something small. And he's like, man, you're good at business. You own a bunch of businesses, you know what you're doing. So if you believe that this is going to work, let's give it a shot. I said, man, we could probably get 50 to 100 members within the first, 8 to 9 months or a year. And we definitely surpassed that for sure.
Yeah. So, you opened in the beginning of January and, we started, you hired Grow Pro Agency as a part of your marketing strategy. You basically opened the door. And here we are, 11 months. What's your active count at now?
We're at 315.
315 students in an 11-month period in one of the most difficult states that got hit by the pandemic. What do you say attributes to massive? That is massive growth. There are schools that have been open for decades that are working to hit, triple digits, 300 plus and beyond. What do you attribute that success to?
We have a strong following. I believe in all my students and kind of just listening to some of the stuff that you guys sent us with the Grow Pro training. We are the product. We're out there. I'm out there competing. I'm actually going to compete in Florida, and then in Vegas this week for World's Masters, and then flying from there going to Abu Dhabi. So I'm always competitive, on the competition scene, competing, and luckily I do pretty well. I'm also linked with some of the best jiu-jitsu guys in the world. And although I'm not one of the famous guys like Paulo Miao and Joao Miao, and Gianni Grippo and some of the guys that I train with on a daily basis, those guys are in my gym. They're also a draw. They're also an attraction. And then people come into my gym and they feel like a great vibe. They're excited. We're excited about what we do. We're so passionate. I'm sure many other martial arts schools, we're extremely passionate about what we do. And I think that translates to good word of mouth and just people loving what we're doing and loving, the way we run our classes and stuff like that. And I'm also listening to some of the OGs in the game like you and following the blueprint. You guys have provided us with a beautiful blueprint and we're just step by step following the model. And it's really it's a system that works, and if you follow the system, everything comes together.
I love it. So, you're in the jiu-jitsu world, and typically when jiu-jitsu guys open up schools, they call it a jiu-jitsu academy. You decided against that. You went with Glory Martial Arts Center. Can you kind of talk to me about where that name came from and why you chose that specific branding versus, Omar Jiu-Jitsu, which you see very often kind of in our style when people are opening up schools?
So I have a friend of mine who I've been friends with over 10 years. His name is Nick Castiglia. He's also like a martial arts consultant. And when I told him, I was like, man, we're trying to pick out a name for the gym. And, you know, we're thinking about, because we like Glory, we're going to do Glory Jiu Jitsu. And he looked at me, he goes, no. He goes, because you're not just marketing to Jiu Jitsu. He's like, you have Muay Thai there, right? I was like, yeah. He goes, you're going to do MMA there. I'm like, yeah. He goes, you're catering to kids and women. He goes, it's a martial arts center. It's not a Jiu Jitsu gym. And like, at first I was, of course, like most Jiu Jitsu guys, extremely reluctant, you know, and I'm like, but I want people to know that we do Jiu Jitsu. You know, I want the logo to say Glory Jiu Jitsu. And he just looked at me, he goes, you can print whatever you want on the t-shirts, you can print whatever you like, but he goes, in order to have a good, sustainable business, you need to be able to target the full market, not just a very small percentage of guys that are only looking to do jiu-jitsu. And I was like, all right, you know what? You have a successful gym, I'll follow suit. So
Great advice, and I'm glad that you followed that. You know, can you kind of talk to us about, I mean, you mentioned it a little bit, but what are the different programs that you're offering at your school, and what are you seeing being the most popular programs? You mentioned kids programs, adults, MMA, jiu-jitsu, you know, Muay Thai. What are the programs that you're packaging, and which ones are the most successful for you?
So if I had to choose one, I wouldn't be able to. I'll just be honest with you. Luckily for us, when we started off with 5 kids, 2 of them my children, and then my nieces and nephews. That program took a life of its own, and now we have like 40 to 50 kids on the mat average every single day. And the way we have our schedule is jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai back to back for kids, and both classes are just jam-packed. There's a lot of crossover training in the kids classes where like they're doing both jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai, which is phenomenal. And then for the adults, it's crazy because it's like 2 separate groups of people, 2 separate groups of like you have the jiu-jitsu guys that just stick to jiu-jitsu. You have a small percentage that cross over, and you have the people that are doing Muay Thai, like just Muay Thai alone.
Sure. And out of those, which classes are you teaching?
I'm teaching jiu-jitsu classes. I'm not gonna lie to you and pretend like I'm a Muay Thai guy. So I'm a strictly like a jiu-jitsu guy. So I teach basically most of the jiu-jitsu classes with my partner. So I'm on the mats like as much as possible, at least 3 days a week teaching. And my partner Ali, who just got his black belt from Paulo Miao, is also on the mat teaching 3 days a week. And we're back and forth, you know, just running classes, kids and adults.
Living the dream, I would say.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. So let's kind of switch gears a little bit and specifically talk marketing for a second. You know, a listener hears you open up a brand new martial arts school in January, 11 months later, incredible growth, 315 plus active count. You did mention earlier a lot of word of mouth, but what other marketing efforts, you know, have you guys implemented besides just having a really great product and, you know, having your students help grow that database? What other marketing strategies have you done?
Well, definitely GoPro like was the big thing for us. Like I'll be honest with you, like we were overwhelmed in the beginning with the amount of leads that we generated. And from what I understand from talking with Jacob, who's phenomenal, he said that we have like, I'm not sure exactly what the wording for it is, but like where we're paying basically like $10 per lead, which most people are like averaging at like 20 or something per lead. So for whatever reason, we're doing really well with our leads, and they're coming through GoPro. I mean, GoPro is definitely, you know, I'm 100% believer in the GoPro agency product.
That's awesome. Yeah, you know, I mean, your cost per lead, you know, probably about, you know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, everybody was able to kind of get leads at, you know, a couple of bucks, $7, $10. There's been a lot of changes occurring with Apple and iOS that have unfortunately increased the cost to advertise. And when you kind of think of the pandemic, it really skyrocketed businesses' needs to get online, right? If you weren't online, you weren't going to have a business when everything was locked down. So because of that, more people are on the platforms, more businesses are on the platforms, and more people are advertising on the platforms as well, which is just supply and demand, right? So it's going to skyrocket your cost. So that's great to hear that, you're able to get those leads at such a great cost per lead. Kind of, just switching gears, are you doing any form of email marketing? Are you posting organically on Facebook and Instagram, YouTube, things like that? What other kind of social media mix or digital marketing mixes do you have in there?
So again, just following the blueprint that you guys talked about, we're sending emails. Like one of the things that I do with my emails is like, and this like just stuck with me is you said, like when you put like a little emoji in your like, in your subject line, people will open it versus like when you don't. It's just like, and now like, I'm like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Like every time I see an emoji in a subject line, I click open, and our open rate for emails is like 30%, which from what I understand is a really good percentage.
Sick. Yeah. I mean, I think like most people that are getting 20% open rates are really, really happy. So the fact that you're getting 30, that's awesome. I want to just switch gears a little bit here because I know how big you are into the competition scene. And how are you balancing running an academy and running an academy again in a state that, has made it a little bit difficult to be successful, getting your own training in, balance, you said you had 2 kids, right? How are you able to balance opening the gym, still getting your training in your family life? Do you feel like you kind of cracked the code on that?
I wouldn't say I cracked the code for sure. I think my wife would definitely, she's sitting next to me over there. She'd probably hit me over the head if I said I did crack the code and have balance. I'm not going to lie and say I have balance. So I wake up every morning, I go to pro training Monday through Fridays, because again, I'm like serious about competition. And then after that, it's just like, I come home, I eat a meal, I say hello to my wife, pick up my kids who both train, and we just go to the academy and kind of like, it's just a family gym. So that, and I think that's also part of like why we're successful. People walk into the gym and they see like my 14-year-old son who, handles most of the adults.
I was gonna say he's probably tapping out blue belts in there, grown men, right?
Yeah. We kind of use him as a marketing tool also. Kicking back to the marketing thing, we have like a little thing. If you could pass my son's guard, who's 14 years old, he's probably like 140, 150 pounds. If you pass his guard, you get a free year of membership. And that's kind of the deal. Like,
I've never heard of that before. That is genius. I love it.
And it works because, man, like unless you're like a super high level, like purple belt, or like somebody that's like super, super good, it doesn't, like weight doesn't matter. Like I've had guys that come in like 6'2" and they're like benching like 300 pounds and they're just like, I cannot get past his legs. I don't understand. So, but that's also
amazing.
helped for us. Yeah. And that's kind of like going back to the work balance thing. Is I'm fortunate enough that both my kids love jiu-jitsu, my daughter and my son. So my daughter takes the kids classes. She's 13. My son is 14, and he's usually like helping out with the kids classes and doing the adults classes and training himself. And he's also competing. So it's just like we're literally like submerged in the scene of jiu-jitsu and training. My other businesses are taking a hit for sure, but
well, talk to me a little bit about that. What other businesses are, if you don't mind, do you have?
Sure. I have a cell phone store. That's kind of like, that was the like the backbone to what helped me open the gym. I have like I franchise the Boost mobile store, and I have that. And I've also been in the credit card and ATM business for a long time. So credit card processing. And I kind of rely on that like passive income to keep me afloat. Before I was handling most of the stuff. Now I just like subcontract it out because I'm just too busy with like the gym, and I'm more like, it's not like that stuff isn't, it's my, I make money from it. It's very good income, but I'm just so,
it's not your passion.
Yeah. I do what I love, and it's just so much better than like listening to, hey, my phone is not working, I need help with my phone. Yeah.
So I've got a parenting question for you, and this is one that I've gotten before. I have a 1.5-year-old. His name's Cruz, and he hasn't started training just yet, but we got a grappling dummy at home, and we play all the Gracie Jiu Jitsu games. What would happen if your kid said that I don't want to train jujitsu anymore? Because I know what my response would be. And I kind of look at martial arts as a life skill, the way that swimming is a life skill, right? I'm here in Florida, there's bodies of water everywhere. I'd be doing my child a disservice if I didn't teach them how to swim. And I kind of look at it the same way as martial arts. We have two older sons. I'm a stepmom, bonus mom to two older sons. One's a purple belt, one's a blue belt. They both worked in the academy. One still does. So I know what my response would be if my kid said, I don't want to do jujitsu anymore, but I'm just curious from a parent to a parent, what would your response be?
So there's two things. I think this is like a twofold question. What my thing is first I would look at myself and I would say, I failed to sell you the gift of martial arts. If you're doing your job correctly as a parent, they would see how much fun it is and how much love goes into what we do, and then they'd want to be able to do that, because we do is we change people's lives. I started
100%.
training when I was 25, so I'm not a lifelong martial artist. I wish I was. I started training, I was 250 pounds. I literally looked like a couch, for lack of better words. I was just like a really, really heavy set person. You could check out my IG, you'll see like the pictures of like me back in the day. And then, now I'm like 160 pounds competing at 150. So like, of course, the health benefits are there. Same thing with my son. He gained a bunch of weight when he stopped training. And I just said to him, I said, hey buddy, I know that things were tough and I couldn't get you to training, but now that we have a gym, man, like you got to see him. It's completely two different kids. Also, the other thing that I always tell parents is when people tell me, oh, I say that the first part is like, I failed as a parent to do my job to sell him the martial art. The second thing is, I always tell parents, I'm like, if it was up to your son or daughter, they would eat chocolate and jelly beans and candy all day, every day, and not go to school and play video games. Do you think that's the right type of lifestyle? It's not. So the same way we don't give them the choice to go to school, they need to go to school and get some type of education. I think it's important for every single kid to face the challenges that martial arts provides, and overcoming those challenges will definitely put you it'll put you ahead of the rest of the people in the world, because you've already in your mind, you're starting to overcome challenges as a child, facing and grappling a bigger person, striking with with somebody that's faster or better than you. And then once you start like defeating those challenges, you start to learn that you can overcome anything. And when you have that mindset, and it grows with you from a child to an adult, even if you stop training 2 or 3 years down the line, you still have that, and it's built inside of you. Like, I can do anything. If I did that, I can do anything.
I love it. What a great response. And I love how you said that, if that would occur, I failed as a parent because I didn't show them the value. I mean, that's super powerful. Let's kind of go to some wisdom, some nuggets of wisdom here. So, I know it wasn't too long ago since you got started, but hindsight's always 2020. If you were to start this over again, is there, maybe one thing that you would have done a little bit differently?
Maybe took next door. Had I known that it was going to be this big, I would have probably took next door. That was the one thing that we didn't think that we were going to run out of space so fast. That was like, but it's a really hard thing to predict.
Sure. And what's your current space? How many square footage do you have?
We have about 3,000 square feet and about 1,800 square feet of mat. But the classes are packed, and sometimes like you get run into like space issues. So we're challenged by that. And as coaches, we're okay, let's do King of the Hill because there's too many people on the mat or whatever. And that's kind of what we do now. So
okay, definitely a good problem to have, right?
Yeah.
Better to have packed mats than empty mats.
Yeah.
What would you say to a school owner that, is maybe a little bit in a rut right now, or they're plateauing, or, they're just not where they want to be? What's the advice that you would give them in order to kind of take it to that next level?
Honestly, keep it real. Be, show your passion, be on the mat, be present in the moment. And also if you have friends, like most people are like, oh, what were you thinking, like in the beginning, like bringing another black belt instructor, world champion to your gym? And I'm just like, I was just thinking like to spread better jiu-jitsu to more people. And if they learn my style, that's great. But if they learn multiple styles, that's even better. And when you have resources like that, if you have them, utilize them. And don't be scared to cross train. Don't be scared to like, I think one of the biggest things is like we encourage our students to go out there and cross train and train at other places, which I know a lot of places are like, it's a big taboo and they're like, don't do that, don't do that. But I think that's also, yeah, I think it's like, it's really important to kind of like, and it'll help you grow because people will go to other places and they'll say like, oh my God, the gym that I'm at is beautiful. We have great instructors. It's a beautiful, clean place, clean environment. And that's one thing that I'm like, I pride myself on. When you walk into my gym, it's like super, like it's pristine. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to having confidence in the product and the service that you're providing, right? I think the school owners who say, oh, you're I think it's a Creonite or I don't know what the Creons. Yeah. If you go to another school and to me, it's just, man, shouldn't you be so confident in the services and the products that you're providing to your students that they're going to go to those other places, they'll get good training, but they're going to come home and be like, this is really where I need to be. So, one of the biggest takeaways that I've had so far from this podcast is, it's about the fulfillment of the product and the service that we're offering. And we've got to make sure that we're always putting that at the forefront, right? I tell people all the time that the fastest way, to close a martial arts school is with marketing, because if you don't have a great product and we're marketing for you, word's going to get around that you don't have that great product. So I think the fact that what you are offering, obviously your community is digging 315 of them in such a small period of time. And then when you have that great product, you pour the fire on with the marketing, and that's really going to help, a school explode. Any additional nuggets of wisdom or insight that you'd like to share before we wrap up here?
Just honestly, with the social media, the marketing on social media and all that stuff, I think it's really important to, and you've talked about this in many of the Zoom calls that we've been on and many of the, meetings that you've led, where just organic, be real, be yourself, go, film your students training, show people smiling, provide like give them the picture for the people that are sitting outside that are not inside of your gym and they're like sitting there thinking about it, like, do I go to Glory or do I go to Gym B down the street? I'm sure like the New York market is super saturated with, like, there's a gym like literally every corner, and people are going to make the choice based on what they see. So if they see pictures of like some kid like random that's not part of your gym, and it's like one of those staged martial art pictures, I feel like people look at that and they're like, these guys are selling fake things. Their marketing is fake. So I bet they're like, the environment's gonna feel fake. So I don't want to go there. Like if you go on our IG, it's literally just pictures of me and my students, and I'm constantly posting stories. I try to do my best where at least I'm doing 3 or 4 posts of stories every week, especially like when the class is full, people are sweating. When people see that from outside, they're like, man, those guys look like they're having a great workout and they're having a blast while they're doing it. And the other thing is like, it helps them overcome the fear of walking into a martial arts space, especially when people hear like, oh, MMA, they're like, oh my God, I'm going to get my face bashed in, when that's not the case, because we're like teaching you technique and drilling and all that stuff. So I think that marketing on social media is super, super important. And, it's just kind of like selling your story like anything else. Make sure you tell the story the right way.
I love it. In my book, The Best Known Dojo, we talk about, do you want to be the best? Do you want to be the best known? And I think what you've done is, you're doing both of those. And that really comes down to the omnipresence that you have online. I follow you guys on social, and the quality of content that you are putting out is so authentic and it's so real. And so many companies today are trying to automate everything, right? When's the last time you got excited talking to the robot when you're, trying to get a hold of a human? And I think you guys have really cracked the code on that. And I'm really excited to see where you guys go in the next year. and maybe potentially getting that second unit right next door.
Yeah. Well, actually, we're working on a second location now. So
Look at that.
yeah.
Beautiful. All right. Well, we'll definitely have to have you back on the podcast once that second location opens. Omar, really appreciate your time and just incredibly blown away by the impact you're having in your community and your success. So congratulations.
Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to be on here.
Awesome.